Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Adventure Sparker, and welcome back to our build of the North Pole theme park. If you haven't been watching the other episodes, I'm basically making a Christmas-themed theme park, but I'm not actually into our final park file yet. I'm just building the blueprint for my Santa's Super Sleigh roller coaster, which is going to be the main attraction of the park, and the station building, but it's more than just a station building. Like, it's an entire pavilion with its own set of attractions. There's a few flat rides, and today I'm kind of working on, I guess you could call them imaginary attractions. So if I were to build this park in real life, I want a section of Santa's workshop to be kind of like his office, like a space where he'd have his desk, a place where you'd see the naughty and nice list, a nice little corner with a Christmas tree and a fireplace. And on the other side of that, I'd want a little place where you could grab a floor mat and then you'd sit down and listen to Mrs. Claus read you a Christmas story. Whether that be How the Grinch Stole Christmas, or The Polar Express, or Frosty the Snowman, or any of those classic Christmas picture books. Now, obviously in Planet Coaster, it's kind of hard to create these as a functional attraction. Like, I can't just plop down a Mrs. Claus character and have her sit there and read you a story. But what I can do is create the spaces in which those kind of experiences could exist. And then you as the viewers and people who are going to see the park will just have to suspend your disbelief to imagine these things as happening. So that's what I'm working on in this video, is that little back room that's going to act as Santa's office. So what we've done so far, as I was talking, is that I set down a latte love stall. That's going to be a little, excuse me, that's going to be a little walk-up window where you can grab some hot chocolate. Like, that side of the room is where the Mrs. Claus story time is going to be. So I thought it'd be kind of cute where, like, the kids can grab hot chocolate, maybe the parents can grab an actual cup of coffee and stand in the background as they watch their kids listen to the story. But it's a nice little place where you can get a warm beverage. And then what I was doing on the other side was working on a little upper balcony. Now, that's not going to be accessible to the guests. I don't think it would be in real life either. But I wanted to create that upper level, and eventually that's going to be filled with some bookshelves, and it'll just kind of be like the archives and books and just maybe where Santa files his important documents. I don't know. It just kind of adds to this story and fills up the space. So now here, I'm actually working on the story corner here. I didn't want to put it in like a flat, like sharp corner where the walls met. I wanted something a little cozier. And I thought that this circular shape would kind of help convey that, you know, by using the curves or getting rid of the sharp edges. And it just creates this nice little reading nook. And what I put down there are the little floor mat pieces. This comes from the new toy box. Excuse me. That comes from the new toy box pack. So they're pretty nice. And they actually look pretty realistic too. Now, when I was working on this, my fiance came in and told me to get rid of them because he didn't think they were Christmassy enough. I am standing by them. I like them. Maybe it's just because they're a new piece, but to me, they kind of evoke this like innocence of childhood. Like, it's like going to, like, you know, your primary school classrooms and you just sit on the mat, and I don't know, it just seems nostalgic and cute and innocent. So I don't know, I like it, but what do you guys think? Should I maybe switch it out for something that is a little more Christmassy, or I don't know. I do want to hear your thoughts on that. Now what I'm doing now is that I actually added this blueprint in from the workshop. So this was originally packaged as a Victorian lamp. I believe the creator was Lilibat, but I'll put their name on the screen because I used a few of their pieces. They really helped me out with this build. But the original idea was that this would be like an old, like, Victorian kind of spooky adjacent piece. What I did is I went in and I adjusted the color of the lampshades and I made them Christmas colors, and then I made the base a little lighter and I adjusted the color of the wood to be a little warmer. So I took their, like, I didn't really change the actual pieces themselves, but by changing the color, I was able to make it my own. Now what I'm doing here is I grabbed another piece from the workshop. Again, got to double check on the name of the creator. But I want to see if I can get it to rock somehow. Like, even though I don't actually have Mrs. Claus sitting in there, I think it would be cute to just see the chair just rocking back and forth. So even though the character itself isn't present, you can kind of use your imagination to imagine she's there. But the way to do that with the rotators is to use the like the quarter oscillations. But even that is too much. Like you can see, like it's too strong of a rocking, like it's too fast. So the way to fix that is that you can use an oscillator in the opposite direction to kind of counteract the rotation of the other one. So it's kind of like one goes forward, one goes backwards, and then kind of like the combined effect, you get like 1/8 of the rocking. But I'm not an expert on this yet. Like I don't really know how to do it. So I grabbed another workshop piece who did do that. So I'm using a lot of creators here. I will make sure I credit them all on screen. But yeah, I kind of saw the mechanism that they used, and I tried to replicate it as best as I could, but I couldn't quite figure it out. I am not great with these movers yet. One day I'll get there. I think I need a little more practice, but for now I just kind of took the mechanism and attached the other chair to it. So I essentially combined two pre-existing pieces to make it my own here. So yeah, I got the movers from the one, the chair from the other. And you know what? The effect is pretty good. Like, you can kind of see there's almost like a little hiccup in the rotation. That's fine. Like, it's good enough. It sells the idea. But it works really well. Just having the chair and the little lamp there. Now, obviously right now it doesn't really look complete. Eventually I'm going to add a couple excuse me. I'm going to add a couple bookshelves to kind of complete like almost this library look. But I don't think that comes till later. Now here I'm trying to block off the way that I guess walk through the paths, because I didn't want them walking through the walls. And in Planet Coaster 1, you could use those curb pieces to sort of act as a barrier. I don't think the barriers work in this game. I don't know. I know there's a way to prevent guests from walking through by using like a very small path piece that you can place down and then later delete. That's something that I know the creator Taggy has really pioneered and has demonstrated. But I don't know. I thought the barriers would work too, but they don't. They don't. So I think at the very end I'm going to do a cleanup of all the paths, but I'm not there yet because I'm still doing adjustments. Now, I'm working on a fireplace here, and I wanted to, I was going to use another workshop piece there, but then I realized that it wasn't really the right texture or shape that I had in mind. I was kind of working on a reference image when creating this part of the workshop, just as some inspiration. And the fireplace in that image, just like it had this stone look, it had a curved chimney. I'm like, you know what? I can make something myself. So I am still glad that I found that other piece from the workshop, because I was able to sort of tear it apart and look at it and kind of deconstruct it to see what pieces that they used, so that I can kind of get ideas for how to do my own. And this is, I think I've talked about this before, but this is something I do all the time. I look for similar pieces to what I'm creating, and I'll deconstruct them to get inspiration, and then I'll make them my own. I do generally like to make my own stuff in the game. There's absolutely no shame in using someone else's blueprint. Like, that's why the workshop is there, so that we can share creations and use them in our own parks. But part of me is like, okay, if I'm going to use something, I want to modify it in some way. So that's kind of what you saw earlier with the Victorian furniture pieces. I recolored them and that kind of gave my own touch to them. But even if you don't do that, there's no shame in it whatsoever. They're on the workshop for a reason. But still, I just think it's more fun when I can play off of other people's creations and add my own touch. But yeah, back to the fireplace, creating it on my own. I'm mostly using these half brick pieces. Those are the non-gridded pieces, so that I can double up on them and manipulate them and get the right size and shape that I want. I used the Viking, I think it's a Viking stone piece, like it's originally meant as like a little stone wall. But I like using them as arches. I actually did that in my Wizard of Oz build as well. If you remember that on the Witch's Castle, what you do is that you just place one piece opposite the other, and then you copy them and rotate them to create a full circle. Then you just delete the bottom half of the circle that creates the arch. Then you take your side pieces, the ones that are completely on the left or the right without rotation, you just copy them over and slide them down to get the rest of the arch. And it looks really great as a front of the fireplace. Now for the mantle, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do here. I knew I wanted it to have this wooden look, so I'm using the Viking wall trims here. and that's creating the top part of the mantle. And then I'm just using the like extra trims and extra columns and stuff to kind of frame the sides there. And now I am getting to work on the chimney. Like I said, I kind of wanted this upwards curving chimney. Something that like it would taper to like a vertical bit at the top, but then would just kind of, it would curve up to it. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but you can kind of see the vision there already. It was just a matter of getting the right angles. So I kind of built it and unbuilt it a number of times, but I think I got it right. Obviously, I can't shrink down the pieces past a certain size, so I would have liked to maybe use a little more to get a smoother curve, but even then, like, it looks good enough. Like, obviously, like, the angles are a little sharp, but the idea is there. It's fine. And then I'm just using the wall pieces and rescaling them to fill in the rest. I actually thought that part of the build was going to be a lot harder than it was. But yeah, all I had to do was just resize the pieces, and they, like, the sides were thick enough that I could overlap them just fine. So continuing to build here, just adjusting the mantle, adjusting, I have this marble piece at the bottom, just kind of sticking out there. And yeah, overall I'm quite proud of it. I do expand on it a little more, but that's kind of the gist of it. Now, as for building the actual fire inside, the other blueprint that I looked used these tiny thin little sticks, and I thought that I needed something a little thicker than that, and I wanted something that looked more like an actual fire log. And there's these log pieces in the game, but this is as small as they go, and they're still too thick. I started with having them in this log cabin style pile, but it didn't quite fit into the fireplace too well, so then I just started looking through the browser to see if I can find any other pieces. What I ended up doing is going back to the original blueprint and seeing what they used. I just scaled it up a little bit, and it worked. Like, I wish they were thicker, but it's fine. And instead of doing like the log cabin style, I just kind of did what they did and arranged them kind of randomly in a somewhat circular shape. It works. Like, it probably could be neater, to be honest. It's a little messy, but I think it sells the illusion. And once you get the fire in there, it doesn't really matter anyways. I end up putting in a pretty big flame, so it covers everything pretty well, and it sells the illusion overall. Okay, so just picking up the flame there. Part of me thinks I should have gone with maybe a slightly smaller one, but I did like the big one, like to have that nice big roaring fire. And now comes the part where I decorate the mantle. So I wanted a few different pieces up there, maybe a few toys. Before that, I wanted to put in a grate. Forgot I did this. So I ended up using this ornate fairy tale fence piece, shrunk it down, colored it black, and that's a nice little fire grate. Like, it looks pretty realistic. And I think it kind of sells the, like, I wasn't really going for a specific era with the fireplace, but I think it sells the style that I was thinking of. I did experiment with a few other kinds of pieces, like the one for the Sorcerer's Pack, but ultimately, this fairy tale one is perfect. Now, on this little marble piece, I wanted to decorate that a little bit too, by adding some pieces of wood, just things that are just readily available to chuck into the fire when it burns low, just so it has a little extra fuel. But I didn't really like I said, those big log pieces were too big to put in front, and the other pieces just, it didn't look right to me, so I ended up abandoning that idea for now. I do come back to it in a bit of a different way later. But what I'm moving on to is building a, what do you call it? Like a fire poker kit. So usually by a fireplace, you'll see this little stand with a few hooks on it, and hanging from it, you'll usually see a fire poker, maybe a broom and a shovel. So I tried looking for actual shovel pieces, and there is a winter shovel that comes with the snowman set, but that was too big. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can create something of my own. And what I end up doing is, it's not overly detailed, but again, it's enough that you can look at it and be like, oh, I know what this is supposed to be. But as I'm creating that, I'm just looking through all the different pieces that I have available to me until I find stuff that I feel goes together. And I think I end up using something from, I don't remember if it's from the sorcery pack or the Viking pack, but you can see this little pokey thing that I end up using. And then I found this other piece that kind of looked like a hook, because usually there's like an ornate little piece that kind of bends backwards, and I create a little fire poker. Now that's not the final version. It is a little thick, so I do end up finding another piece to make it a little skinnier and a little more realistic. So that part's taken care of, and I really like the look of it overall, again, until I just ended up finding a better piece later. But then the real challenge came when I wanted to do the other tool. And again, normally it's like a broom and a dustpan. I was just gonna create one of them, whatever one was easiest to create, but it was hard to find the right pieces. So yeah, this was hard, because every piece that I thought would have been fine was just too big. It didn't scale down enough. But what I end up doing is I end up copying over the like the pole piece that I used for the fire poker. And you can see I already exchanged it out for the smaller one. And then I just used a basic shaped square. And I mean, it's kind of cool because it's not very detailed, obviously, but then it's kind of up to interpretation. Like, do you think it's a broom? Do you think it's a shovel? It could be both. So for such a simple, like really, yeah, like for just a simplified concept like that, it works. It sells the idea. It's kind of off to the corner. It's something that you're probably not going to pay much mind to, but just having its presence there does make a bit of a difference. So it's great. Now here I am returning to that idea of having logs by the fire, and instead of having them piled up in front of the mantle, in front of the grate, what I decided to do was create this sort of, I don't even know the technical term for it. Is that a sawhorse? No, a sawhorse is what you use to cut the wood. Just this little frame, like this wooden frame thing that's holding the logs together. And this is kind of fun to create because it was super simple. Like, I'm just using one type of piece, but then I'm rescaling it to have the cross sections, but then also adding pieces of connection. And I'm trying to think sort of in engineering terms. I'm like, okay, obviously this thing isn't just going to be freestanding. I need cross beams to support it so it's not going to fall over and collapse in on itself. So I don't know how realistic it is, but that's kind of how I approached it, with that frame of mind of thinking, what does this thing need so that it can support itself? Now we're finally getting around to decorating the mantle. And what I wanted to do was just create just this very cute little scene with a few different toys. So again, this is also kind of an excuse for me to use the toy box pack. Anytime there's new pieces to use, it's always fun. Like, it literally is a toy box for us creators. So I wanted to incorporate those in. Then I wanted a nice little instrument up there as well, some candles just to kind of add some classiness to it. Obviously changed them over to Christmas colors, and those are from the sorcery pack. Now the guitar up there I didn't quite like I thought I could recolor it to get rid of the Viva La Vegan details, but I couldn't. They were stuck there and it just didn't fit the mood. So I ended up switching out for this trumpet piece, and this comes from the festive pack. I think that's something that you can, like, it's intended to be used with the snowmen, but it worked. And I found this other piece that I could use as like a frame or like a holder or something for it. So again, just so it's not freestanding, it just adds a bit of realism. And then now I have no idea what I'm doing. I kind of, oh, I remember. I'm trying to create some stockings because that was the final thing I needed. I'm like, okay, yeah, we're in Santa's office. I don't know if Santa himself needs some stockings, but it just adds to the aesthetic to have them hanging over the fire anyways. And I was originally going to use the 3D pieces, but they just didn't go together the way I wanted them to. Like, they just weren't lining up. It just didn't look right. But then I got to thinking, again, who's gonna get super close to this fireplace anyways? So I decided to just take the simple option and make them 2D. And you know what? They look just fine. And you think, like, when you have a stocking and you hang it up, it's gonna look flat against the fireplace anyways until it's filled up. So, you know, it would look skinny. And honestly, with the thickness of the basic shapes, that's probably how thick they'd be anyways prior to being filled up. So it's fine. Now, you did see me there. I tried to use some foliage pieces to add some. I thought it'd be cool to have like a fluffy cotton trim on the top. Once I shrunk it down, it was too much. It didn't work. So I just added a white rectangle to give that illusion. But again, it's fine. Like, it's simple, it's basic, but it works. Like, I think it gives off the illusion of exactly what I was going for. And sometimes that's good enough. and there's no shame in that, so it's fine. Okay, so now we're returning to Mrs. Claus's story nook, and I wanted to add a little poster to just kind of advertise what was happening there. Mostly, like, part of it was also for people viewing it, so it was obvious what I was trying to go for. But also, like, in real life, like, there'd probably be a poster board out there advertising showtimes and what was going on to passerbys, especially if there wasn't a story actively happening. Like, Mrs. Claus is a busy woman. She has a lot of places to be. She can't be out telling stories 24/7, so there's got to be something to give some information. So the game had this little poster board piece, but it looks very rugged and very worn, and I can't change the color on it. I don't know why it's not Flexicolor. It made me sad because it would have been nice if it had a lighter wood tone, but I made do, and I just pivoted by adding the white basic shape to kind of create a flat, like, postery, papery surface, and then I added the text box, not the text box, the text pieces to write out what I needed to say. Now, for the time being, I put up that the story is Polar Express, but if you guys have any suggestions for a Christmas story that I should do instead, I can always switch it out. And in fact, I can probably switch it out with each recording that I do of this, just to mix it up and keep things interesting. Now, I did a lot of work off camera to finish The Office, so I don't know if I do that in this video or I come back to it at a different time, but my mind has moved on to something different. So now we're working on the upper balconies within the main part of the workshop. So this is something that I mentioned earlier, this desire to do this upper kind of surrounding balcony, and then I made it happen now. I figured out how to do it. I wasn't really sure, like when I tried it with the path pieces earlier, it didn't look quite right. But what I realized I had to do is I just had to raise it up a little bit more. And then it ended up working just fine. And then I added some wooden floor pieces underneath to kind of hide the foundation of the path. And right now there's a lot of like bits sticking out as we go along. I'm going to be doing some adjustments to recess it back and kind of hide that gray edge with the Planet Coaster logo, so it all looks a little more natural and a little more fitting. But then what I did is that I added these little slides. This is a vision that I had, is that like even if you just Google Santa's Workshop, some of the images that you'll see, and I don't know if it comes from a movie or something, but you'll see these little slides coming up from these upper balconies onto the main workshop floor, and that's something that I wanted to replicate. And in real life, I'd love to have a lot of parts of the workshop to be interactive and fun, where kids can just run around and explore, and everything is like you can interact with it. So that's what I created here with these slides, and I realized I didn't actually show the construction of the slides on camera, but what they're made out of is it's a resort canvas piece that's or I think it's called Planet Coaster canvas piece, but it's just a piece of canvas to create the actual like curve of the slide. The edges on the sides, that is a resort wall piece, like one of the trims that I just resized and rotated, and that's it. Like, it's so simple. And then I used some tarp pieces at the bottom because I'm thinking, ooh, I don't want the kids sliding down and have a really hard landing. There needs to be some sort of padding there. So again, just kind of thinking in terms of realism and what would be needed. So even though you'll never actually see the in-game guests use these slides, I wanted to think about it as if it were real. And then during all this time, I've just been trying to adjust these paths and again, trying to hide the trim there, trying to find the right railing piece for the balcony. I think the one I ended up going with comes from the Western pack. But I just kind of wanted this like nice, like old style look. I was kind of going for, actually I think the movie The Santa Clauses was a big inspiration for a lot of this. So, yeah. Now, the stairs gave me a lot of grief. The stairs were too thick, they don't look quite right, and you can adjust them to make them smaller, but it's difficult. Like, I tried using the edit tool, that didn't quite work. Like, there was this weird bending that was happening. You can see me deleting huge sections of the floor here, trying to get it right. I tried copying over the other staircase, which I thought was okay, to try to reuse it. That didn't quite work out well. It just, every time I tried to attach it, it just created these weird little bends. So what I end up doing is I build this staircase away from the workshop itself, kind of off to the side here. And from there, what I'm able to do is, instead of doing that weird editing thing, I just copy over the staircase itself, move it over 2 meters, because the staircase, it needs to be at least 2 meters wide for the guests to use it. If it's any smaller, they're not going to go up it. And even though the slides themselves aren't functional, I do want the ability, I do want guests to have the ability to go up here and at least be walking around. So yeah, what I do is I just copy over the staircase, move it over, and then when you move it over, paths kind of merge, like the way the path pieces work. So then I can delete the thicker half, and it kind of leaves this thinner sliver. So then it creates the perfect width of the staircase there, and that I can copy over and put into place, and it looks just fine there. So that took a lot of work and a lot of finagling to figure out, but the end product I think is pretty good. And again, I just got to adjust all of these railings again. I thought I had them in a good spot, but then I just needed to slide the end pieces a little more. There is a bit of overlapping, but again, it's fine. And then I sink them down, hiding that like path edge, and it just all looks natural. Like, it looks so good when it comes together. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. And yeah, this was just a fun little piece to create. Like, again, I wish it was functional, but I know what it's supposed to be. I'm assuming you get the idea as well. So it just works. Then it was just a challenge of trying to reconnect all these path pieces. For the most part, it's pretty easy. Like, it's a pretty open space, and the game is pretty good at not overlapping with existing pieces too much. But the problem here that I had is that I don't think the staircase went all the way down to the ground level. So I think I had to do some readjustments with the heights. I think I had to rebuild them a couple times. And the other thing is, I can't place a path underneath the staircase, even though the balconies themselves are at the right height, that I can have pathways going underneath the, we can't actually have anything underneath the staircases themselves. Okay, jump cut here, because I figured I just spent way too much time trying to figure that out. But now comes the fun part of decorating the slides. I did want to add these little candy cane arches to the front of them, just to give them a little more of a festive accent. Again, it's Santa's workshop. It's got to be whimsical and fun and magical, and hey, we have these new candy cane pieces. I wanted to figure out how to use them. Plus, there's this little gap in between the railing piece that I used and the edge of the slide, so I needed something to fill that in. So the candy cane arches worked perfectly for those purposes. Then I dressed them up with these fairy lights. Again, just adding these little details wherever I can, just to add a bit of whimsy, a bit of color, a bit of detail, just anywhere. And I haven't really done a whole lot of that in this workshop build yet, because I've been working on more of the macro details. But eventually, I think maybe the next episode or two, we'll be adding some of these finer things, just to kind of dress up the walls, add some festive flair where we can, add some steampunk flair as well. There's not a whole, like, again, like the workshop is supposed to be a little more industrial, but I haven't really put in any elements that convey that, except for maybe arguably the Merry Mixer itself. So that's something that I gotta focus my attention on eventually, is adding pipes and gears and all that kind of stuff. Okay, now my mind is jumping over to something different, as it tends to do when I'm building, and we're focusing our attention on this little back room here. And this is the actual entrance and queue to the Santa Super Sleigh roller coaster. As I've explained in previous videos, the whole idea here is that you're entering the research and development department. And this kind of area I want to be architecturally and stylistically different from everything else, because I want it to look super modern and super, like, focus on technology, rather than everything else that's a little more classic and nostalgic and more focused on the whimsy of Santa's workshop. This is where science and innovation and technology are put forward. So that's why the queue color is blue. That's why I'm trying to build glass windows here. Just to kind of sell that more modern idea. Now, the glass pieces, they came in an update pretty early on in the game's history, and I know a lot of creators really love them. I've never used them before. To be honest, I've been a little intimidated by them because they're not gridded pieces, and anytime I have to go off grid, like I mean, I've shown I can do it, and I am getting better with it every time I try, but it's a little scary. So yeah, it was a challenge for me. The other thing is I wanted to, like, I knew I needed some sort of frame for these glass pieces, but I wasn't sure how to do that. Like, I kept looking through, trying to find something a little more metallic to use. But then I had this like wooden, I guess you call them baseboards. Like, I wanted this modern wood trim along the bottom here, just to kind of like, I don't know, blend the idea of the modernism with the more classic bits. Like, it's like, yeah, it's modern wood, but it's still wood, which kind of fits the cozier vibes of the workshop. So it's kind of blending the styles in a way. But I end up finding this piece that works pretty well. So I start by constructing the frame. Again, I got to do a lot of adjustments throughout. And when I think I have everything that I need, I'm like, oh, this corner needs a column. This corner, this side needs something. So a lot of adjustments, a lot of trial and error. And even here, like, I was going to have this side of the wall be glass as well. But with the balcony right there, I'm like, that doesn't look good. You don't want to be looking into the side of the path and exposing too much of the like underbelly of the workshop. So I'm like, okay, we'll put the brick wall back in and we'll just have the front and the other side be the glass. So then, yeah, here we go. Now we're actually adding in those pieces. Excuse me. Sorry about this recording, guys. I'm still a little bit sick. Almost over it. Yeah, just adding these glasses into place. The real challenge was adjusting them so that there wasn't too much overlap. I thought that you were able to overlap these pieces and they just blend in pretty seamlessly. Kind of like if you use the white basic shapes, it doesn't matter how far you overlap. Usually it looks pretty good, but here it just creates this weird color and texture that just doesn't work. So I had to make sure that the pieces were the right size where I could fill up the entire frame and have minimal overlap. And that's something that I had to make that adjustment there to make that work. I was going to have this gap above the door where I thought maybe I could have like an upper panel, but I'm like, no, we'll just bring the frame down so it's flush with that door trim. But then in response to that, I'm like, okay, maybe I can create this second level of glass and we'll just have an angled pane, just like I'm putting in there. And then that way I still have that upper bit, but then I have a little more space to work with. And then hopefully that way all the pieces can fit a bit better. It's not perfect. Like, I kind of kept this rectangular piece horizontal for most of the way. Then that end piece I had to flip vertical to make it to fit. But thankfully, with the overlapping, it ended up working. The only big challenge here was trying to angle the frame and getting it in the right position, and then angling the glass to match that. But in the end, it ends up working well. Like, it's not perfect, but it's fine. And I feel like that's my motto. Like, I'm like, okay, this needs to be perfect. There can't be anything overhanging. It's got to be like in just the right position. At the end of the day, it's a game. Like, I gotta have fun with it. I can't let it stress me out too much. So a little bit of imperfection is okay. Obviously, I want to put my best foot forward when I'm building, and I want to make sure that I'm doing my best work because I do eventually want these projects to be showcased. But it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. There's limitations in the game, and sometimes you just gotta be like, okay, I accept that I'm limited, and it's fine. And a big example is gonna come here, because the flat pieces of the roof, great. We were able to make that work just fine. But then coming into this corner piece, yeah, there's gonna be some overlapping glass. I tried to fill it in with these triangular pieces and maybe use a combination of rectangular pieces, but things just didn't scale down the way I thought they would. Things were not angled the way I thought they would. Like, this triangle piece, there's only like one type of triangle, like it's the equilateral one, and I needed like a right angle triangle to really work in there. So Frontier, if you're listening, please give us more shapes here. Give us a proper right angle triangle that we can use. But again, we make it work, and it's fine. Now I'm working on the interior of this room. And like I said, I wanted it to have this ultra modern look. So how do you do that? White walls. So I'm just using the basic shapes, or not even. I'm using the off-grid panel wall pieces for this. And that's kind of nice, because then I can adjust them so that they're just touching the original brick on the other side. So I'm not even really adding any other wall pieces. They just kind of stick on, and it works. And again, with these ones, if I needed to overlap them in any way, that's okay. Like, they overlap really well, actually. So when I get to the ends of the walls, like, they're not perfectly spaced out, but I can just shift them over and it works. My only challenge here, and I don't think I've gone back to it yet, is covering up the arches that lead out to the other room. That's a challenge I'm gonna have to figure out in a future build, but I just leave it for now. Sometimes you just gotta leave things and come back to them later when inspiration strikes. But that's you're gonna kind of start seeing the general idea for what I have. Now, I do add another wall piece here because I wanted to separate the front bit with the back bit. I figured that the front bit, like, I could put some desks in that area, so you'd have a couple rows of desks of where elves would be working, doing their research. Then in the back bit, that's where I'd have more, like there'd be more screens and more desks back here as well, but maybe the wall will have some screens that display some blueprints, and maybe you'll see some models of some ideas. Just kind of like, I didn't want to put it all on full display right away. Like, the front bit sells the idea that you're in the research and technology division, but then the top secret stuff, you gotta go into the back room to see that. Alright, and that is going to do it for our build of Santa's Workshop in North Pole Theme Park. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know this wasn't the most exciting episode ever, but I think coming up, we're going to try to wrap this up in the next 2 or 3 episodes. There are just so many components to this build, but I'm really excited to share it, and I'm really excited for this to be finished and showcased. My goal is to have this done well before Christmas, so I can send it off to, like, maybe I'll send it off to Channel 5 Gaming to have it featured in, I know they usually do like a Festive Blueprint episode, so I'd love to have it done by then. We'll see what happens, but appreciate you guys tuning in regardless. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a good December so far, and that you're enjoying your holidays if they've already started. But until next time, have a good one. Bye.